Hello friends, good evening. Welcome to Mission Possible by BK. This is Bharat, the chartered accountant by profession, and we are covering paper 1, which is your principles and practices of banking. In our earlier video related to this module, we have covered chapter 1, which is just the basics of your banking. And in this chapter, we will learn a bit more about the banking regulations. So we will get started. I'll try to limit the video's size or the video length to less than 20-25 minutes so that you can easily go through it, and even this entire notes is also condensed from your Macmillan book. So I don't think it will take much of a time, so let's get quickly started. So the RBI, also popularly known as the bankers bank, so this is something I think which you must already be knowing, and it is the India's central most bank. And the RBI is in charge of the India's government's monetary and banking policy, and it was established as per the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934, and the RBI was created on April 1st, 1935, and since 1937 the headquarters of RBI is located in Mumbai. So the RBI is fully owned and operated by the government of India. So this is also one important point. And the preamble of RBI states that it has basically three functions. One of them is regulating the issuance of banknotes. So you all must be knowing that RBI is the entity which is responsible for issuing of all the notes except for 1 rupee note. 1 rupee note is generally issued by the Ministry of Finance. And the second most important thing is ensuring India's monetary stability. This is actually the most important task of RBI. So recently, last Friday, you must have seen that the RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has issued the new RBI policy, wherein he has prescribed about various issues like repo rate, reverse repo rate, the inflation condition, the GDP growth. So all these monetary aspects of the Indian economy is actually decided by RBI. So RBI has to control the inflation, RBI has to decide the GDP growth. A lot of factors and a lot of burden is there on RBI, and the most important of them is to ensure the India's economical stability. That means the financial position of India should be in good condition, and also addressing economic issues by modernizing the monetary policy framework. This monetary policy is a regular thing. The RBI governor meets every once in quarter and decides whether to make any changes in the monetary policy or not. The RBI operations are overseen by a central board of directors, and it's administered by 21 members central board of directors, and out of this the official directors are one governor and four deputy governors. Okay, and they are normally appointed for a period of 4 years, and then the non-official directors, total 10, who belong to non-government sector, that is they are not related to the government entities, and there are two people who are related to government officials from various diverse fields. So this is the composition of your RBI operations. So this is basically the organization structure of the RBI for your reference. It starts with the central board of directors, who is generally monitored by the governor. So Shaktikanta Das is the most important person in RBI, who stands on the top, and then you have the deputy governors, executive directors, principal, chief general managers, general managers, deputy general managers, followed by assistant general managers, and then the support staff. So this is basically the structure of your RBI organization, though not so relevant. But what is most relevant is the one governor, four deputy governors, and also the 10 people from non-government sector and 2 people from government sector. So that is what you should remember, which I have highlighted in the earlier page. So the legal framework, RBI of India actually comes under the purview of the following various acts, and the first important is the RBI, because this is like the preamble. This is the mother of RBI, which states the functions of RBI and everything else, and the powers and of RBI, and the powers of the people who control RBI. And then you have Public Debt Act, which is also associated with RBI, Government Securities Regulations, Banking Regulation Act, Foreign Exchange Management Act. We will learn all about this in the upcoming few videos. Securitization and Reconstruction Act. So all these are actually related to RBI, and it comes under the purview of RBI. Okay. And you have Credit Information Companies Act, and then the Payment and Settlement Act 2007. So the main objective of RBI is supervising and implementing initiatives for the financial sector, which includes your banks, financial institutions, and even NBFCs. The notable initiatives are banking inspections are currently being restructured. So the way the bank inspections are conducted is also decided by RBI, and nowadays RBI is trying to restructure these bank inspections and also strengthen the functioning of statutory auditors in banking. We all know that you must be working in banks, and March 31st is an important date for all of you. So the role of statutory auditors becomes very important, because most of the government government banks of India are listed, and the listed banks have the requirement to publish their financial results as quickly as possible because they have to intimate it to the SEBI. So the role of statutory auditors becomes important here because they need to audit the financial statements as quickly as possible, and also they also take care of various aspects related to your banking financial statements. So they take care of a lot of factors like NPA, gross NPA, net NPA, and a lot of other things which are generally involved with a bank audit. So RBI ensures that both of these are given the utmost priority. So that is the main objectives of your RBI. And some other major functions of RBI: formulating and implementing the national monetary policy. Last Friday we have seen what this is. The RBI brings upon various changes in the monetary policy depending upon the condition of the economy, and maintaining price stability across all sectors. So this is nothing but related to your inflation. So we will learn about this in the next few minutes. So the direct instruments by which RBI controls this is CRR and SLR. So in the previous video we have just covered the brief. In this video again I will tell you about what CRR or SLR is. So CRR in general stands for your cash reserve ratio. It is nothing but a compulsory reserve that must be maintained with the Reserve Bank of India. Every bank in India is required to maintain a specific percentage of their net demand and time liabilities. Demand and time liabilities I have explained in the previous video. Just try to listen from it. Demand and time liabilities, a specific percentage is specified by the RBI. So the banks are mandatorily required to maintain this percentage in cash. So that is why the name is cash reserve ratio. So this specific percentage in the form of cash must be maintained as a reserve with the RBI, and the banks are not allowed to use that money kept with RBI for any kind of economical or commercial purposes. It is generally a tool which is used by the RBI in order to regulate the liquidity in the economy. So how does it regulate the liquidity in the economy? Basically the regulation of liquidity comes into picture when there is a situation of over demand or reduced demand. If the RBI wants to increase the money flow in the economy, it will reduce the rate of CRR. So what happens, banks will have more cash at their disposal, so they can lend it to people, and thereby the supply in the economy of in terms of money is increased. Now I can just tell you this in the help of an example. If you see, for example, a lot of money is there with people, so there is only one product which costs 10 rupees, but there are a lot of people, assuming that there are 10 people who have money who want to buy this product. So what happens, friends? What happens in this case? If there are 10 people who have the money and there is only one product, then obviously this product's price will go up because each people will be ready to pay higher amount for this product. So when this product is scarce, when this product becomes scarce, what will happen? Immediately they try to increase it at 50 rupees because a lot of people have money, they can buy this product, but the product is not there. That means the demand is not there for the product or goods or services, but money is there. So in this situation what happens is your inflation rises. That means the product price gets increased because the demand of the product, that means the supply is lesser than your demand. That means your demand is more. 10 people are demanding that product, but only supply is 1. So what happens in this case? The prices are increased because the person who sells this knows that this product is very scarce and people are ready to pay any kind of amount for this product. So in this situation what happens is inflation rises. So what has the RBI to do when this kind of situation? It has to control the money flow in the economy. When the money flow is controlled, that means when the people do not have money to purchase the product, obviously what will happen? When these 10 people lose their purchasing power, that means when these 10 people lose their money, automatically this 50 rupees will come back to 10 rupees, isn't it? Because there is no money in the economy and people are not ready to buy a product at a higher price. So what happens in this case? The demand for that product reduces. So in this case, when the demand reduces, obviously the price is also going to reduce. Hope you understood this simple example. So this is how actually inflation is created in an economy. It is purely a dynamics of supply and demand. If your supply is more, then obviously there is not going to be any demand. But if your supply is scarce, then the demand increases, and when your demand increases, obviously the price is also going to increase. Just like your normal, when you go to a market, if there is only 1 kg of tomato available and there are 10 people struggling to buy it, obviously what the shopkeeper will do? He will say, whoever pays me 50 rupees instead of 10 rupees, he will get this tomato. So what happens here? Inflation, because the prices are rising. Why it is rising? Because the product is less. That means the supply is less but the demand is more, so inflation arises. So in order to control this, what the RBI does, it tilts the CRR ratio. That means whenever it feels that it wants to increase the money supply in the economy, it will reduce the CRR percentage. So if it will reduce, what happens? Banks will have more money at their disposal. That means instead of 4%, they will say you just keep 3%. So banks will have additional 1% at their disposal. This 1% can be lent to these people who are requiring money. So when these people get the money, again this supply demand becomes constant. So that is how the inflation is regulated in the economy. If RBI seeks to decrease the money supply, that means if RBI feels that the money supply has to be reduced, then it will increase the rate of CRR, so that banks will have lesser money to lend it to people. So obviously people will gradually start losing their money, so the supply of money will be reduced. So this is basically the concept of inflation, and CRR and SLR are two main instruments by which RBI regulates the inflation in your economy. SLR is nothing but a percentage of your net, again time and demand liabilities, which is kept by the bank but in the form of liquid assets. Here it is maintained in the form of cash. Here it is maintained in the form of liquid assets. That is the only difference. Liquid assets, and the banks hold more than the required SLR, and the purpose of maintaining the SLR is to hold a certain sum of money, so that whenever the demand from the deposit arises, the bank will have some liquid assets in order to request or meet their demand. That means demand and time liabilities. That means time liabilities means which mature after a particular period of time, whereas demand liabilities means as and when it is demanded you have to pay it. So in order to meet the requirement of the depositors, a certain percentage is maintained in the form of liquid assets, and this liquid assets should be used only for the purpose of fulfilling the demand of the depositors as and when they arise. So that is the major difference between your CRR and LRR. Time liabilities means the amount of money which is payable after a particular period of time. Demand liabilities means amount which is payable to the customer at the time when he demands it. So that is basically the difference between time and demand liabilities. CRR has to be maintained in cash, SLR is maintained in liquid assets. So that is also one of the differences between CLR and SLR, and hope you understood how banks are regulated in the form of CRR and how RBI controls inflation in the economy with the help of CRR and SLR. It is nothing but just purely dynamics of supply and demand. You just take a simple example of the market which I have taught you. Okay, that is more than enough to understand how inflation is created, and if inflation is created, how to control it. It's just adjusting the supply of money. So obviously inflation gets controlled. Okay. Next is your liquidity adjustment facility. It is nothing but the repurchase or the reverse repurchase generally which occurs with the banks. This also we have learned in the previous video. Again, I will give a short brief about this now so that you can understand it much better. Repurchase is nothing but, banks also have some cash crunch. That means they have difficulty sometimes in having the required amount of cash. So at that time, what it does is banks borrow money from RBI during a cash crunch, and on which they are required to pay certain interest to the RBI. This interest rate is called as actually the repo rate. Technically speaking, repo stands for repurchasing option or repurchase agreement. It is nothing but an agreement in which actually the banks who want the loan provide some securities such as treasury bills to the RBI. I will explain about treasury bills in some time. Don't worry about that. So what happens is here the banks give some treasury bills as security to the RBI and get the loan. An agreement to repurchase them at a predetermined price also gets entered into. That means RBI and the bank both will enter into an agreement stating that it is giving that money as a treasury bill as a security to the RBI, so that the banks can get the money from RBI. So banks get the cash and RBI gets the security. So the rate of interest generally shows the rate at which the RBI gives this loan amount to the banks. Generally it is at 4%, but here what happens is the RBI wants some security before giving some loan. So that security is provided by the bank in terms of treasury bills. Okay, I will explain about treasury bills in some time, so don't worry about that. So what happens is the repo rate is actually very powerful tool with the RBI that can actually control the entire country's money supply or inflation level. What happens here also, same like inflation, during high levels of inflation, RBI makes very strong attempts to bring down the flow of money in the economy, because when there are high levels of inflation, RBI needs to bring down the flow of money in the economy. One way is by increasing the repo rate. What happens? This makes the borrowing a costly affair for the business and industries, which in turn slow down investment and automatically it slows down the supply in the market. As a result, it negatively impacts the growth of the economy, and in turn what happens, it controls the inflation. Hope you understood what I said. During high levels of inflation, once again I am repeating, RBI always tries to reduce the flow of money. So at that time, it tries to increases the repo rate. If it increases the repo rate, then borrowing becomes a costly affair, because banks borrow money from RBI and bank lend to some other people. When it is borrowing at a higher rate, obviously it has to give it at a higher rate to the common people or the industrialists. So when interest rates are increased, obviously people will not prefer to borrow money. So what happens in such a case? The general economy is slow down a bit, because the money flow is controlled. And when the money flow is controlled, obviously what happens, inflation is controlled, because when the money is not there, who is going to purchase a product at a higher price? So the seller is forced to reduce the price, and the inflation automatically reduces. So this is also one powerful tool with the RBI to control the inflation. So you must be thinking why all these reserves are maintained. So this is the background for it, friends. Any ratio which has to be maintained with the RBI is a tool with the RBI to control the inflation. Because of all these reserves, CRR, SLR, reverse repo rate, the RBI is able to control the inflation and the money flow in the economy. So reverse repo rate is nothing but the opposite. When RBI tries to borrow, it is a mechanism in order to absorb the liquidity in the market. This is also one kind of liquidity adjustment only. In reverse repo, what happens is RBI borrows money from the banks when there is excess liquidity in the market. See, during high levels of inflation, the RBI increases the reverse repo. It encourages the banks to park more funds with the RBI, so banks are left with lesser funds to extend loans and borrowings. Hope you understood. In reverse repo, what happens is RBI borrows money from the banks. So what RBI tells is, instead of 5%, I will give you 6%. So you park your fund with me. So immediately banks, in order to earn revenue, will keep that entire amount with the RBI for 6% interest. When the banks will not have any money to give loans, obviously people who want loans will not get it. So again, inflation is controlled. That means the money supply is reduced with the banks. Hope you understood what I am saying here. Banks can lend money only if it has money. If it doesn't have money, how can it lend loans? So that is the concept here. So RBI uses both of these tools in order to control the banks. That means it decides how much money the bank should have at its disposal in order to meet the demands of the borrowers. If it feels that inflation is rising, it tries to squeeze the amount the banks have, so that banks do not have any money to lend to the people. And obviously people, when become scarce of money, their purchasing power decreases. When their purchasing power decreases, the value of the goods decreases. That means if I don't have money, how can I buy a how can I buy something? If it is a 10 rupees good, and if it increases to 50 rupees, if I don't have money, what will happen? Obviously this 50 will again come back to 10 rupees. So your inflation is reducing. So your inflation is controlled. This is how your RBI regulates this SLR, CRR, reverse repo rate in order to control the liquidity as well as the inflation in the market. Don't just blindly think that this is just a exchange between the RBI and banks, but there is a lot of background behind it, and that is what you must understand it being a banker. Right. Next is something called as open market operations. It is also one kind of a tool which the RBI uses in order to smoothen liquidity conditions throughout the year and regulate the supply in the economy. Open market operations is nothing but the sale and purchase of government securities and treasury bills by RBI. So I will now explain what these treasury bills are, so that you can understand this in a much better manner. See, when the government actually wants money, it generally goes to the financial market in order to raise money by issuing two types of instruments. One of them is called as treasury bills, another one is called as government bonds. Treasury bills are generally issued when the government needs money for a shorter period of time, which in general is lesser than 1 year, that is lesser than 365 days. Generally, the maximum maturity which a treasury bill has is 364 days. It may be 90 days, 180 days, or the maximum of 364 days. And treasury bills are generally issued at a discount at original value, but the buyer gets the actual value at the time of maturity. That means here what happens is, the government issues a treasury bill at 90 rupees. The value of the face value of the treasury bill will be 100, but RBI issues it at a discount of 10%. For example, it issues at a 90. That means the banks will purchase this treasury bill at 90, but after 1 year maturity, they will get 100. This 10 rupees is nothing but the interest which they gain on the purchase of this treasury bill. So that is how this treasury bill works. The government issues these treasury bills at a discount. For example, if the face value is 100, then they will issue it at 95 or 90 rupees. But at the time of maturity, the banks who purchase this treasury bill will get the full amount. And this treasury bill is the one which they generally keep with Reserve Bank of India as part of their SLR. Just a few minutes ago we have seen statutory liquidity ratio. For that they have to maintain some reserve in the form of liquid assets. So this treasury bill is one such liquid assets which the banks can keep with RBI. If in general the government wants to raise money for a longer period of time, that is greater than 1 year, it is called as securities or government bonds. So if it is lesser than 1 year, it is called as treasury bills, or else if it is greater than 1 year, it is called as securities or bonds. So that is actually one of the advantages. For a good information, you try to check the balance sheet of your bank. You will find something called as treasury bills, because most of the banks have the habit of purchasing a treasury bills and keeping it with them, because they are going to get interest, and also at the same time they can keep that with the RBI as part of their SLR requirement. So that is also one of the reason these treasury bills are purchased. Now we will learn about what this open market operation is. So now this open market operations is nothing but the sale or purchase of government securities. It is also one of the most important tools in order to exercise a monetary control. So what happens is, like, whenever the RBI wants to reduce the money supply in the market, it sells securities. So when it sells securities, what happens? It is collecting money from the economy. So the money which is lying in the economy comes to RBI, so the money supply is reduced in the economy. And similarly the vice versa, when the central bank wants to increase the supply, money supply in the market, it will purchase. So what happens? When it purchases, it will issue a check. So the RBI's money will be reduced, but the economy's money will be increased. That means it's just the opposite reaction. So whenever it wants to reduce the money supply in the market, it will sell, so that the money from the economy comes to RBI. But whenever it wants to increase the money supply in the market, it will purchase the securities, so the money from RBI will flow into the economy. So this is also one tool for controlling inflation in the economy. All these are done mainly for the purpose of inflation control and ensuring the economic stability of the country, friends. So this is the background for all of this. Just don't think that it is simply a tool for earning interest or revenue. That is secondary, but the main impact is to control the country's inflation and the liquidity and the stability of the economy. So something next is called as marginal standing facility. So marginal standing facility is one of the liquidity adjustment facility window which was created by RBI in 2011. So it is the rate at which banks are able to borrow overnight funds from RBI against approved government securities. So RBI will collect some approved government securities, and against it, it will give some loan to the banks. So this also happens when the banks have exhausted all their existing means of securing money. So it, in the end, what it does, it will go to the RBI and say that I will give some securities, give me some money, and it is generally for a overnight period of time, 15 days, 30 days or shorter period of time. So this is called as marginal standing facility. And another one is bank rate. Bank rate is also the interest rate at which the RBI gives money to the domestic banks for very short term loans. So the only difference between your marginal standing facility or bank rate is that in bank rate generally there is no collateral or no government securities which are given to the RBI, whereas in your repo or in your marginal standing facility some government securities are attached to it. So that is only the major differences between your marginal standing facility and bank rate. Again, all of these are also the tools by which RBI controls the money supply. If the banks do not have much money, and if the RBI feels that the banker should not have money, it will obviously increase the interest rate so that the banks don't borrow. So it will reduce the supply of money in the market, and thereby the inflation is reduced. So everything is correlated, friends. RBI is the main bank which correlates every bank's activity. It decides how much liquidity the banker should have so that the economies or the inflation is stabilized in a proper manner. So this is major function of RBI is what which we have learned now. Other than this, some regular functions are your regulatory and supervisory. That means it regulates all your banking activities and also it protects the investors' interest. And there is something called as foreign exchange management, which we will learn at a deeper level next stage. So all the inflow of money in terms of foreign currency, your import payments, export payments, letter of credits, bills of exchange, everything comes under your foreign exchange management. It basically has two types of transactions: current account transactions, capital account transactions, which we will learn in the coming few videos. We have some special chapter on it, so we will learn more about it. So this also comes under your purview of RBI. Currency issuer, we have just seen RBI issues currency notes. Developmental role, that means to develop the economy of the country. Related functions, nothing but your banking solutions to the central and state governments. Okay, and it also acts as chief banker to all the banks. So this is something which is already known to everyone. Banker to banks, that means it acts as a banker to banks. So just like we need banks, banks also need RBI for their monetary help and monetary adjustments. Regulatory restrictions on lending, so this we have also seen in our different module, but once again I will just tell you, a bank cannot grant any loans and advances on the security of its own shares. That means it cannot keep security of its own shares and grant any loans and advances or take money. Okay, that is what the meaning here is. And also it cannot enter into any commitment for granting any loan or advance to anyone on behalf of any of its directors, any firm in which directors are interested as a partner, manager, employer, or guarantor. And under section 19, this is also what we have discussed in one of the videos. A bank cannot held shares in a company as a pledgee or a mortgage in excess of 30% of either its own capital or the paid up capital of the company in which it is investing, or in the management of which the managing director or manager of the bank is interested. So 30% is the maximum of shares it can hold of other companies. So that is the simple meaning here. And banks aggregate investment in shares, certificate of deposits, bonds, etc. should not exceed 40% of the bank's owned funds at the end of previous years. So this is also something which you should remember. Credit facilities cannot be granted against certificate of deposits, term deposits issued by other banks, or money market mutual funds. While granting loan against sensitive commodities, banks must follow RBI's selective credit control rules. So, there are some commodities which relate to your oil, gold or something. So, for the sensitive commodities also, RBI has various policies for commodity transactions. So, the banks must follow the RBI's rule for commodities. And there are some other general rules which you can just have a look. And, when I post this PDF version in the group, and there is nothing much important here apart from this. And next we will move on to the inclusion of urban cooperative banks in the second schedule of the Reserve Bank of India. So here you need to remember only two things. So Reserve Bank of India actually allowed the urban cooperative banks with a total deposit of 750 crores to be graduated to scheduled bank category. Okay, if the urban cooperative banks fulfill the listed criteria, it will be eligible for inclusion in the second schedule. RBI once said in a notification. And also the public sector banks, private sector banks, foreign banks, regional banks are all part of the second schedule. So the notification which came in 2013 said that 750 crore would be treated as the main condition for the inclusion of urban cooperative banks in the second schedule to the Reserve Bank of India. And apart from this, the urban cooperative banks who are seeking inclusion in the second schedule should follow certain other criteria, like the continuous net profit for the previous 3 years, capital adequacy ratio of 12%, and gross non-performing assets of less than 5%. So these are also some of the conditions which the RBI has put so that they can get included in the schedule. In addition, the banks must also adhere to all the cash reserve ratios, statutory liquidity ratio, key regulatory supervisory problems, etc. So this is basically the function of RBI. So far in this entire chapter we have seen how RBI is controlled. Basically we have seen it's overseen by a governor and 4 deputy governors, and then we have seen how RBI controls liquidity in the market through the help of SLR, CRR, and a lot of other instruments like your repo rate, reverse repo, and marginal lending facility, bank rates, etc. So these are the main tools used by the RBI in order to control the inflation and liquidity in the economy. And apart from that, we have seen that banks cannot lend to people which RBI has listed as willful defaulters. And at the same time we have also seen some criteria related to your investment in other companies. That means banks can at most have 30% of investment in shares and of shares of some other company. 30% of that company or 30% of the bank's own capital is the maximum limit. And apart from that, we have seen about urban cooperative society. We have seen that 750 crore deposit should be there in order to be graduated to the scheduled bank category. And apart from that, some other commitments, like they should be in net profit for the last 3 years, they should have a capital adequacy ratio of 12%, and the gross NPA should be less than 5%. So this is basically the important topics in this lesson. So apart from this, nothing much important here. Hope you understood this chapter, and we will meet again in the next chapter to discuss more on the PPB topics. Thank you very much for your time, and stay safe and take care, friends. Thank you.